we're thinking a little bit about how you are aspiring to middle leadership. So I'll give you a little bit of context about where I am, just to sort of give you a little bit of an understanding of who I am and where I'm from and my journey, sort of career journey. So I'm Gemma Williamson. I'm Deputy Principal for Teaching and Learning at the Hazeley Academy, which is a large secondary school in the western side of Milton Keynes, and we're part of the 5 Dimensions Trust, which is 2 large secondary schools, and we're on board some primary schools currently at the moment as well. So in terms of my sort of journey there, I started off as teacher of English, and I was offered the opportunity to teach media studies, and I'm secondary trained, and I jumped at that. So that was all about honing my classroom practice. And then following that, I was offered the opportunity to be a learning leader for media studies. And to be honest, I didn't really have a clue, but I said yes. And then I became a key stage coordinator for English. And all of that phase was about honing my organisational skills. I became acting director of English and then substantive director of English at the Hazeley Academy. And that was all about taking the department and the school from just floor standards up to sort of outstanding data, and within 2 to 3 years we improved the percentage of students getting C grades at that time by about 35%, so that was quite great. And then I did acting assistant principal for core, and that's English, maths and science. So I was director of English at the same time as line managing maths and science. And then I took on some other roles, which are sort of more voluntary, leading marking and feedback. I became a staff governor and basically sort of took part in lots of different areas of the school. And then following that, I became, about 5 years ago, deputy principal for teaching and learning here, and I now do trust-wide teaching and learning. And I've recently did my NPQSL in 2019, and safeguarding qualifications, and just sort of becoming a well-rounded senior leader within the school. And this phase is really quite a challenging phase, because it's all about communicating your vision and values, collaboration and connection, so moving beyond the walls of your school. And the reason why I'm telling you this is not to be sort of self-indulgent, but to give you 2 things that have been sort of characterized within my development of my career, and that is, don't be afraid to take incomplete roles. So twice I've been asked to be acting something, or put on a year's trial or a year's secondment in order to secure a job, and there was for several reasons. It is school budgets are completely all over the place, and they will be for some time. And also, I was very young in my career, so they wanted to sort of try before you buy. And so don't be afraid to take and look at roles that are not always substantive. And then I also wanted to talk to you about how each phase of the career really teaches you something really different. So honing classroom practice, and then delivering the wider organisation of like a key stage or a phase or a small group of children, and then starting to lead people, making sure the vision and the values of the trust and the school actually come to life. Then moving on to create those strategy and impacting whole school standards. And then we're moving into the senior phase, which is actually creating those visions and values, which is quite a tricky phase as well, because it's more amorphous as well. So just thinking a little bit about middle leaders, there's lots in the press, the edu press and edu Twitter, all about the importance of middle leaders. Michael Wilshaw, now he was the chief inspector for Ofsted in schools from 2012 to 2016, and he had a lot to say about middle leaders. What's resonating with you with what he's saying? So I'll just give you a couple of minutes on that. What we're seeing now is schools are becoming increasingly more and more complex organisations. So the distance is growing over time, and that's why the middle leaders fill in that gap. And there is that gap there between that SLT and the sort of main body of staff, because as schools become more and more larger trusts, complex systems, we need that leadership within the middle realm there as well. Okay, so I'm going to offer to you what it means to be a middle leader. And it is sort of, the way I talk about it is a little bit of a funnel. I actually use a different phrase, which I won't say, because you are a converter. It's a converter. And I use a word in front of that to explain the role. But you're taking the vision and values, you know, those pretty phrases on the websites, and the comments and the rhetoric of the trust and your school, and actually making that come to life in the classroom. You're also combining that with trying to improve standards, close the variation between the school. So if Key Stage 2 are outperforming Key Stage 1 on progress, or if boys in English in year 11 are not performing as well as the girls, you're part of narrowing that variation within school. And within that, you also are combining the policy, the exam board specs, the safeguarding information and strategy into one. So you're funneling all of that down into what happens day to day within the school. Okay, and this phase is very much about management. Okay, and being a middle manager and organising what's going on and making sure that happens. However, being a middle leader is slightly different. Okay, it's where you lead upwards towards your SLT and the head teacher, and what that means is that you are responsible for all the new things that are coming along, the emerging pedagogy, the practice, the mastery that's coming along, all the great work the EEF are doing in terms of metacognition. You're really close to the learning, you're close to your teachers, you're close to the children in the classes. So you're able to give that information towards your SLT and lead your SLT to make to develop their strategy and visions because of that information. And furthermore, you're not just creating coherence as in making sure everything's well ordered and organized. It's about cohesion, making sure your work links in with the wider strategy and vision and values as well. So not only are you you are filtering downwards from your SLT and your trust, but you're also feeding back up to them about what's going on in the ground, what's happening in their education sphere, and also creating the connections across the schools and across trusts. And that's the difference between a middle manager and a middle leader, leading from the middle. So have a little think about this. What is it that you want? Why do you want to be a middle leader? And I'd like you just to have a look over those phrases, but what you must do is have clarity on why you want to do it. And whether that is remuneration or less time in the classroom, you need to be honest and clear about what that means to you. So what I'd like you to do is just jot down your top 3. But I think a really good exercise for us this afternoon is to have clarity in your mind. Why do you really want to do this? What is it? What's driving you here? Okay, so we've got it to empower and motivate, career progression, absolutely, and to experience school life outside of the classroom. And then we've got solve issues and streamline, absolutely. So when you're seeing things that could be better and you're getting that little bit of an itch, you know, that little sort of itchy palm moment of, oh, really want to get my teeth into that, and create a positive environment that like sort of affects the culture and develop the culture there. Okay, so let's discuss this a little bit. Okay, I'm going to ask you guys a difficult question. Okay, what evidence do you have that tells you you're ready for the next step? Okay, so here is what makes a real strong middle leader, really strong, exceptional middle leader. And this is taken from a couple of different areas. Wilshire was one of them, and the SSAT. So highly competent classroom practitioners, that you are already recognised as being really a real brilliant, safe pair of hands in the classroom. And that doesn't mean you have to be absolutely massively innovative and whizzy and all this, but you know that even if you have to take a step, but that the leadership know if you have to take a step back and move your focus into something else, your teaching will remain excellent. You've got a genuine belief in the vision and the values of the school. Okay, not just saying it, but genuinely think, yeah, this is right for me, and this is the right school that fits with your own values. You've got a developed vision for your next role. Great middle leaders understand the data, but they also understand the performance measures. And what I mean by that as well is, what are the targets for the school, but also what are the internal targets within your own sphere of influence? So, for example, if you are going for, if you are the phonics lead, what is the progress measure that you're working to? What is the hit rate of the number of students logging onto Teams or Google Classroom or whatever else? Have clarity on the performance measure, the entry point of the students and the endpoints. You need to be ambitious. And this is a dirty word in education, but the best senior leaders are positively competitive. I work brilliantly with my counterpart at my sister school, which is Shenley Brook End School, but we are competitive and we laugh about it and we enjoy that little bit of competition of, oh, well, actually, we've got our homeworks at this percentage or so, you know, and enjoy that competitive edge. You should be a great communicator, and you've both identified that's your strength. High visibility. You're in the corridors, you're in the car park, you're talking to a range of different people in briefing, but also you can have those difficult conversations. And there's some brilliant podcasts about how to have difficult conversations. I really recommend a lady called Brené Brown, who's an American lady, so it's a little bit American, but it's really good. You've got your educational landscape understood. So you've got your professional Twitter sorted out. You're checking into your LinkedIn and seeing what is going in to the going on in the educational landscape. It's incredible stuff, and start having and joining those online conversations as well. You can add me on LinkedIn, guys, if you want this evening. Contribute to the school life. You know, get involved a little bit more, mentor some people, turn up to the events, say thank you for the initiatives. And then the difficult one there, we have to, even if it's really hard, we as leaders have got to model the switching off and going, well, actually this weekend will be a no work weekend, or I will only check my emails 2 nights in a week, or whatever else it is, and model that excellent work-life balance. Because actually what it is, if we don't model the excellent work-life balance, that's suggesting that we can't organise our time well, and that's not a good message going outwards there. Some myths and misconceptions about middle leadership. Some people say, you know, it was a very traditional model that you go over pastoral or you go subject leadership. And that is really a complete fallacy and does not exist anymore. So, for example, at Hazeley, we have our heads of year are called progress leaders. So whilst they support the students pastorally, they are also looking at the data of their of all the individual subjects, meeting with subject leaders. They're looking at closing the variation between the disadvantaged and non-disadvantaged students. There is no such thing as a purely pastoral or a subject leader role. And I'm sure, you know, in your current roles, in terms of, like, you know, your role in leading phonics, whilst that is an academic role, you will be doing lots of behavior management in terms of the groups that you're seeing and feeding back that information. Great teachers do not always make great leaders. I'll give you a short anecdote for this. My director of maths here does not have a degree in maths, but she is hands down the absolute best head of maths we've ever had and I've ever worked with, because she's got really great honed leadership skills. So honing those leadership skills. And following that, SLT are not always the ones accountable. Of course, we are accountable to governors and Ofsted, but increasingly so, the spotlight is on the middle leaders. So in the new education inspection framework, the EIF, it's all about the effectiveness of middle leaders, because they recognise that middle leaders really are the change makers within schools, and they are the absolute most important layer within the school. So they are, and with that becomes accountability as well. So you would have heard the phrase leading from the middle, and I'm going to offer you a little bit of theory now. Okay, according to Alma, which is a theorist, and others, these are the 4 things what needs to happen to lead from the middle. And so moving away from middle management into being middle leaders, leading from the middle, setting that clear direction and vision and goals and strategy, managing the teaching program, which includes what's happening in the curriculum. And even if you're a pastoral lead, or if you're looking at a whole trust IT ambassador role, what is that curriculum? What is your extracurricular curriculum? Because it is still all part of the curriculum. It's part of the students' lived experience, which is the curriculum. Monitoring what's going on, creating the interventions, but also for your teams around you, buffering and filtering the distractions that take them away from their core purpose, which is brilliant teaching and learning. Another role is developing people, creating that CPD, encouraging educational debate, taking calculated risks in strategies, and encouraging people to reflect on their practice. And then I think Sarah, you alluded to this in the reasons why you wanted to go for promotion, to redesign the organisation, improve the effectiveness, see the snags, see the sticking points, see the areas of the school that are not as effective as they can be, and creating those. So thinking about these sort of different areas and what I've offered you here and what I've offered you here, have a think now. What areas of development do you think you need? So if communication is a strength of yours, what is an area that you think you may need? Is it how to develop people, or is it managing the teaching program? Have a little think now. So what are your areas of development? What do you need to hone, develop, work on to go for your middle leader role? If you are now thinking about, well, I need to develop this, what is it that you need to develop? Okay, so if it is your leadership skills, who are you going to shadow? What are you going to learn? What do you need to read? If it's your classroom practice and making sure that your classroom practice is really solid, we all know what you need to do with that. You know, is support and observation and talking to your line manager. And if it's your organisation skills, start thinking about the time, how you use your time and your tools to help you with that. And I also wanted just to have a little caveat at this point that actually staying in the classroom, for me, making a decision to stay in the classroom and not go for promotion is absolutely completely viable and actually a noble thing in itself, to stay close to the kids and deliver a great work. And, you know, and I wanted to pop that in there. UPS 3 is £41,604, which is, you know, a really strong salary for someone who is decided to be really good in the classroom. Okay. However, that's just something I wanted to share with you, that if you're coming to a sort of thinking about whether it is right for you, be honest with yourself and don't feel you have to as well. Okay, so in terms of your progression, start thinking about what your gaps are and what you need. Following that, you're now starting to think about roles and responsibilities. You do need clarity on the role that you really want. Plan to close any of those gaps with CPD, and then have clarity on what's your success so far. So when someone says to you, what have you done? you've done this, this and this, and the impact has been this. And then following that, you then start planning and preparing for interview. But I will give you some tips about what's really supported me in my development, and that is filming yourself doing interview questions. So get someone who you know, love and trust to film you and give you mock interview questions. It's incredibly painful and it's just so cringy, but it's really, really useful. It's incredibly useful. And also start throwing your hat into the ring. Exactly what Hilary said, just go for it, but just go for it, because actually, you know, you may not get it on the first round, but you'll have that incredible experience of that process. So I'd like to sort of finish off today by being a little bit un-PC, and this is where my experience comes in. How I have interviewed probably over 200 middle leaders in my career over the last 10 years. I've also been a middle leader in several guises, and I'm going to give you tips and tricks that no one talks about because they're not particularly PC, and it's not really what your head teacher would say to you, but this is the reality of it. Do the job first. The promotion will come afterwards. At every phase in my career, I've had to do the job for free at some point, and then you secure the role afterwards. And Hilary, if you've got any comments or thoughts about these, please do jump in from your experience.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to say. I've done the job so many times. I did a maths across the curriculum for the whole school and tied up all the maths programs and things like this. Got given 1 hour a week, spent 6-7 hours a week getting it done, getting it top hold, made an impact, and then your name's already in the pool.
Yes, absolutely. And then say yes. So whatever opportunity comes along and you think it's worthwhile, say yes. Yes, I'll do it. Yes, I'll do it. And then ask for the time later. Don't say, oh yeah, I'll do it now, but you've got to give me 2 free periods per fortnight or however you want to do it. Say yes and then ask the resource later. Don't be put off by short contracts and secondments. Good people secure the contracts. Okay, the money gets found if you're brilliant. Let your data speak for itself. And what I mean by that is your own classes. So in my first years of teaching, I had really strong data with my classes. Then I took on media studies, and I think there was one class that was something like 80% A stars because I managed to teach them the A-level spec at the same time as the GCSE spec. But let your data speak for itself. And I will be really honest with you, guys, that when I'm looking and interviewing middle leaders, it's tell me how you've improved your data. Tell me your impact and your outcomes of what you've been doing in your classroom day in and day out. Visibility and presence are a must. CPD and networking are a must. And as I said earlier, get your online presence sorted. So get your network, get your LinkedIn sorted and your professional Twitter. Learn the informal rules of the organisation. You know, and we know schools are funny old places. They've got weird informal rules. You know, you don't park in the head teacher's space. You don't, at the end of a meeting, you don't come in with an AOB that lasts 20 minutes. Really think carefully about what the rules, the informal, unspoken rules of your organisation are, and just be a little bit wary of them. And this one I've been thinking a little bit about recently. Do you know Stephen Bartlett, the CEO guy? He's on Dragon's Den, and you know, so I was listening to a podcast and he was talking about this, your invisible reputation. And I thought, oh, wow, that's amazing. So it's things like making sure that you always say thank you to the cleaners, making sure that your area that you work in is presentable, that you are a member of staff that picks up a piece of litter and doesn't walk by it. Think about your invisible reputation around your organisations currently. And then also, finally, this is quite a difficult one, actually. When you do move to middle leadership, your relationships with other people do change. You may go for coffees with your colleagues now. You may take your kids to the park together. Some people may go on holiday with their colleagues. That will change when you move into middle leadership, and you need to be really open and clear about how that will happen. And that's quite a hard thing to do. I've got some further reading here, and you can just spend a little bit of time rag rating yourself, red, amber, green, and that will give you a little bit of time, a little bit of guidance into what is it you need to do to get ready for middle leadership. Please be ambitious. We want brilliant head teachers coming through and don't be put off by the challenges. It's incredibly rewarding moving into leadership in schools. And if I can help you in any way, please do drop me a line. And that's it from me.
Thank you very much, Gemma. That was really good and really informative.